There are moments in life when you find yourself in a place so dark, so suffocating, that it lingers long after you've escaped. A place where you can almost feel the weight of your own fear. A place you never truly leave behind.
This happened many decades ago when I was still a young schoolboy. Imagine those days. No smartphones, no video games, no internet, not even CDs or DVDs. Entertainment meant going to the cinema, especially if you were a young boy living in small-town India. I grew up in one such small, dusty town near the east coast of southern India. We lived in a small rented house close to the railway line. This railway line was significant as it almost divided the town in two. It was a major line connecting Madras in the south to Calcutta in the northeast. They weren't called Chennai and Kolkata back then. Most of the old town lay to the west of the railway line, while new developments were sprouting to the east. As kids, movies were something we eagerly awaited because they were rare treats. The movie I wanted to watch was an old black and white classic, hugely popular in its time and now being re-released. I was brimming with excitement. The movie was scheduled at a theater called Vijaya Mahal, located on the eastern side of the railway line, while we lived on the western side. For reasons I can no longer recall, I decided to catch the late night show that started around 10 p.m. and lasted till almost 1 a.m. After some mild protests, I received permission from my family. The day finally arrived, and after an early dinner, I set off, bubbling with excitement. I sat spellbound in the theater, enthralled by the fights, songs, and everything else the movie offered. It ended around 1 a.m. The few others who had also attended the late night show dispersed in different directions. I was thrilled, on top of the world, replaying the movie's scenes in my imagination. As I walked back, a manned railway gate about a kilometer from the theater served as the designated crossing point for traffic to pass to the other side of the tracks. But at 1 a.m., the town was fast asleep. The air was silent except for the faint chirping of crickets. Instead of crossing the gate, I decided to take a shortcut and walk directly across the tracks. After navigating through some thorny bushes that acted as weak barriers along the railway line, I approached the tracks. As I climbed the steep embankment of crushed gravel, I noticed how quiet it had become. Even the crickets had fallen silent. Off in the distance, I could see the faint glow of the railway gate's lights. Where I stood, darkness enveloped everything. I crossed the first track and began descending. A few feet ahead, the second track rose on another gravel embankment. As I stepped into the hollow between the two embankments, something soft brushed against my feet. I froze. I looked down but couldn't see anything. The darkness in the hollow was impenetrable. There was no moonlight, no starlight. My mind, still distracted by thoughts of the movie, acted instinctively. What was that soft thing brushing my feet? I crouched, reaching out to feel it. Slowly, reality began to sink in. My surroundings came into sharp focus. I was no longer lost in my cinematic reverie. The sound of the crickets resumed faintly in the background. I became aware of my exposed feet in their simple slippers, the gravel beneath them, and the cool, damp air of the hollow. And then I saw it. Two eyes stared back at me. Dim, lifeless, their whites barely visible in the darkness. My hand was clutching something. Soft, loose, damp. It was hair. Long, tangled, lifeless hair. I was looking at a human head. A woman's head. Just the head. I released the hair, standing up as quietly and deliberately as I could. My breath hitched. My legs felt heavy, my chest tight. Slowly, I backed away, step by step. I climbed the second embankment, every movement cautious and calculated, the loose gravel shifting beneath my weight. On the second track, I glimpsed something, what might have been a headless body lying prone. I didn't want to confirm it. I didn't look twice. Descending the second embankment, I forced myself not to turn back. The tingling sensation on my back made me feel as if the dead eyes were still watching me. My imagination ran wild. What if the headless body suddenly moved? What if it reached for my ankle? I crossed the thorny bushes again, barely noticing the scratches they left on my legs. My only focus was putting one foot in front of the other. Once I reached the road on the other side, I stood under a flickering street lamp. In its pale light, I looked down at my feet. They were free of the clinging hair, yet my right hand still felt sticky. I didn't dare inspect it. And then I started running. I ran as silently as possible, terrified of waking the dead. The next day, a small article in the local newspaper, Zaman Rayot, reported that a woman had committed suicide by jumping in front of a train. No one knew what despair or hopelessness had driven her to such a tragic end. Memory is a strange thing. Some moments stay with you forever, etched into your soul, while others fade away. This was one such moment. A moment that burned itself into my mind. I never spoke of it to anyone for a long time, certainly not to my family. That night, I slept fitfully, but didn't fall sick or slip into shock. Outwardly, I remained the same, but inwardly, it took a long time before darkness became just darkness again, and not something with damp hair and lifeless eyes.
Some dark moments follow you for a lifetime, never fully fading into the shadows. And when the night feels heavy, it's hard to forget that sometimes the darkness isn't just around you, but within you as well.